Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Carried Away Travels. In this week's video, I'm going to give you an ultimate guide to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg for 2024. I'm going to tell you about each of the 9 areas, what kind of shows and rides to expect, as well as a few recommendations on my favorite food and shopping spots. And don't forget to stick around all the way to the end of the video to get my top tips on how to maximize your day. By the way, if this is your first time here, an extra special welcome to you. My name is Carrie, and I share helpful travel tips, itineraries, gear recommendations, and more so you can always have the perfect trip. And with today's video, I want to make sure that you have an absolutely amazing time at one of my favorite theme parks in America. I have actually been visiting Busch Gardens for well over a decade, and it really is one of my favorite places in Virginia. I love going there with my husband because we've made so many wonderful memories there. Quite frankly, I lost track of how many times we had season passes or annual memberships because for a while we just pretty much continuously had something that allowed us to visit. It's very close to our home. It's small enough that it's very manageable to do in one day. And also it is just so pretty, which to me adds so much to the experience. If you are brand new to Busch Gardens and you have absolutely no idea what to expect, the whole park is broken up into sections that depict different countries around the world. There are 9 countries in total: England, Scotland, Ireland, France, New France, Germany, Oktoberfest, which is technically Germany, Italy, and Festa Italia, which technically is also Italy, but you get the picture. There are 9 different sections, and each one just has an overarching theme, and everything in that section fits the theme. And to me, that just adds to the experience. I love walking around there and seeing the gardens and the fountains and food stands that blend perfectly into the surrounding decor. Like, to me, that adds more enjoyment to being there versus going to a park that maybe has more rides, but everything is just gray concrete and nasty looking food stalls in between everything. And there is like a place for that. Like if you're just going for thrills, you may not care, but I love that there is a good blend of roller coasters, thrill rides, and beauty here. In addition to that, they just always have so much going on. Every season they have a different event, and with some of those events, they completely transform each area, particularly for Howl-O-Scream and Christmas Town. They go all out with the decorations. They add new shows and little events that you can go to, and then they throw in costumed actors to help set the atmosphere, and every single section of the park is different. To me, that's just awesome, and it is one of the reasons it is so easy to return to this park over and over again because there's always something new to look forward to. Now, I have made videos on some of those events in the past. They weren't great. I don't think I talked at all because I was scared to talk to you guys back then. But they have done a lot here recently that made me feel like they deserved an update. They've added some new rides, they've taken away some rides, they've changed a number of things, and so I felt like it was time to make an updated guide to Busch Gardens just to make sure that you had the most up-to-date information possible to plan your visit. All right, I'm going to take you on a journey around the park, going country by country in a counterclockwise direction. So we'll go from England to Scotland, and so on. Please keep in mind, I am only going to talk about the main areas. I am not going to talk about any of the kids areas. As someone who does not have children, I have not been in there because that would probably be creepy. So Land of Dragons and Sesame Street are not included in this guide. If that is something you're interested in, there's probably a really good parents guide out there somewhere that details those more, but I did want to throw that out there in case that is specifically what you needed. So let's get to it. The very first thing you'll see when you enter the park is England. Now, this is a very quaint area with white buildings, with brown trim, very classic old-timey English vibe. And there's not a ton here. There are no rides, but there are a few things of interest. First of all, there is a welcome center where you can go with questions. You can also sign up for like an annual pass or something there if you want to. There are also several stores. One of them has pickup options if you want to shop throughout the park but don't want to carry on what you buy. When you're done for the day, you will go here to pick up those purchases. But the main attraction here is the Globe Theater. Now, this is one of the park's main show venues, and the show switches seasonally. My personal favorite is probably A Christmas Carol, which they put on during Christmas Town. It's a very engaging and lively show that's condensed down to, I want to say 30 minutes or so, but they put on so many great shows. And again, those are constantly changing with the seasons. We've gone in summers in the past when they had a completely different entertainer or performer every single week, but most frequently they'll have a show with their performers and they'll put that on for a couple months at a time. So be sure to check show times. This one can be a little hard to get to because it's all the way at the front of the park. So if you're visiting a different section, say Germany, that's completely opposite. You want to make sure you leave plenty of time to get over to that side of the park and then get decent seats. Next up is Scotland, and this is a very small portion of the park, but it does have a couple really great things to do. First up is the Highland Stables, and here they have a number of Clydesdale horses, and you can walk through the stable and see them, and at certain times you can actually take photos with them as well. That's always fun to do. They're just such huge, beautiful creatures. You can also sign up for like a behind the scenes tour. It's called Clydesdales and Collies, and they will talk to you about caring for the Clydesdales and the Border Collies that they have and how they train them. So you should also check out their little pasture of fluffy Highland cows. They are absolutely adorable. You can actually sign up for a special tour with them as well. I have never done that, but I love visiting their little enclosure because they're just so cute. The other main thing to do in Scotland is the Loch Ness Monster roller coaster. This is one of my favorites. It has been a park icon for decades. I believe they just celebrated the 46th anniversary of it, and it is really cool. It was the world's first interlocking loop coaster, and it takes you through some really great turns, through a dark cave, and it's just such a fun ride. Now, they completely revamped it this year. For 2024, it's updated. They added a few new elements, and then they also updated the area around the line. So as you're waiting to get on the ride, there are some new things to discover. So even if you have ridden this ride before, it's got a fresh new look and some surprises. So this is one you'll definitely want to check out. Next up is Ireland. I love this area because it's always just so lively. Like, it's got those Irish jigs playing in the background. It's just always so bright and festive, particularly during like the food and wine festival is so much fun. And then they make it really creepy for Howl-O-Scream too. This is just always one of my favorite areas. So Ireland is a little different than the other ones. It's got a small village, and then it has a fairly long path connecting it to France, where there's a lot of animal experiences. So I'll get into that in a second. The main ride here is Finnegan's Flyer, which is like a double pendulum swing ride. It is fun and terrifying. It's right on the riverbank, which is really cool. When you're up high, you get a great view of the park. That's a really fun one, but it is kind of intense. My least favorite thing about this ride is that you go upside down, but you don't have any sort of harness. You just have a lap belt, and that bothers me, but yet I ride it pretty much every time and I haven't died. So take that as you will. The other ride in Ireland is the park's only VR ride, and it's called Battle for the Eyrie. And basically you'll enter these tunnels and go on a journey to Fairyland, where they'll have you put on a helmet to prepare you for battle, but it's like where your goggles go in, and then you'll enter this auditorium like area, find a seat, and you don't really move, but the seats react to what you're seeing on your screen once you hook in your VR goggles. So it's a pretty cute little ride. Not intense at all, but if you get motion sickness, that's something you might just want to keep in mind since you are moving all over the place visually. And there is a venue here as well called the Abbey Stone Theater. Now, the show will occasionally switch up, but the one you are most likely to see is Celtic Fire. Now, this is a pretty interesting dance centric show where they do a lot of fancy footwork and Irish jigs. It's based around a wedding that's happening at this Irish pub, and it's just a very cute story to go along with it. But the dancing is so impressive. Like, I can't dance to save my life to begin with, but these guys are just amazing. So this is one I always enjoy. It's very upbeat, and so be sure to check that one out if you have time. All right, now on to the animal experiences. Once you exit the Killarney Village and go on this path, you'll see several different enclosures. Now, Busch Gardens does a lot with animal conservation, and this is something we saw a lot more at their Tampa location. They have like a whole safari there of these animals that they care for. Here it's a much smaller variety of animals, but they are personally just very fun to see. The first thing you'll see is a large enclosure with some rescued bald eagles. These are not part of any shows or anything. They just live here where they're taken care of. Some of them have like broken wings, or maybe they're like blind in an eye. Like, they will tell you exactly why they're there. They did not just go and capture these bald eagles, just to be clear. So there's the eagle enclosure, and then a little further down, they have the Wolf Valley, and they have a pack of wolves here. And most often, we don't actually see them running around outside. It's Virginia, it's hot, they like to be in their den, but occasionally they will be running around. And you can actually go to a show and see the trainers working with them. It's called How to Coexist. It used to be free, but I think this year they made it a paid experience. I have not been able to find that out specifically, but based off of their website, I think you have to pay to do this now, which kind of stinks. But it is very cool. The final enclosure here is the Lorikeet Glen. This is open during warmer weather, and this is a large aviary that you can walk through. I love visiting here because they have so many beautiful birds, but this is one I just really enjoy walking around, and it's pretty much the last thing in Ireland before you hit France. France has always been one of my favorite areas, and probably because the first time I visited Busch Gardens, I was still dreaming of visiting Paris. And now, even though I've seen the real thing, I still get a smile on my face every time we walk through here. My absolute favorite time to visit this part of the park is during Christmas Town, but it's very pretty every time of year. It's got like these beautiful fountains and these really chic buildings. Like, it's just very beautiful to walk through. The show venue here is the Royal Palace Theater, and this is a very large outside stadium. During the summer, they will have concerts here, and every Christmas Town, they put on an ice skating performance of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, and they bring in this like Olympic medalist skater, and he leads the show. It is so much fun. That is when we try to hit every year. Even though it's the same show, it's just very impressive and fun. France also has a roller coaster called the Griffin, and this is one of the best in the park. It is a very wide ride. The cars, I want to say, hold 10 people per row. It's 3 rows, and you go through this awesome series of drops and loops. It has a very intense drop right at the beginning where you kind of suspend for a second and then you plummet down. It is so fun. So if you like thrills, be sure to check that one out. It's also very smooth. So like if you don't like rides that are kind of jerky and bumpy, this will be a great one for you to check out. Right after France, you will go right into New France, which is basically Canada. And there are actually 3 rides here in New France. They have one roller coaster called Invader. This is a wooden roller coaster. It's like Viking themed. It's pretty fun. It's one we usually try to do. However, it is wooden, so it is a little jerkier. Just keep that in mind. The cars are also a little bit smaller, but that is a fun one. They also have a log flume ride called Les Scouts, and this is one of my favorite ones during summer. It's pretty chill, but it does have a really good drop right at the end. So that's always a fun one if you don't mind getting wet. And then they have Les Catapultes, which is basically just a scrambler ride, one of the ones with all the different arms, and then you mix all around in like circular patterns. If you don't know what a scrambler is, that was a terrible explanation. I know. From New France, you will cross a covered bridge and enter Germany. Now, this is another very cute villagey style area. They recently painted all the buildings. I noticed that while I was looking through footage. They used to be white and brown, kind of like England. And then when we were there a couple months ago, they were in all these fun, bright colors. There's also a very cute carousel here. And even if you're an adult, it is okay if you get on the carousel. People may look at you funny, but it's a lot of fun. If you do have kids, this is where you're going to find the Land of Dragons, but we're not going to talk about that today. Germany's only roller coaster is Alpengeist, and this is a very intense one. It's different from all the other ones in the park because instead of sitting in a car, you are suspended from the track in one where your legs dangle free, and so the track is above you as you whip around this. It is very intense because it has some very sharp turns. This is one I like, but only if I'm in the front row. Quite frankly, if I am not in the front row, I tend to hit my head on the non-padded things and I kind of end up with a headache. So this is one we don't always ride. The line's usually pretty long and it is intense. But if you can get that front row seat, it's actually one of my favorite in the park because there's just it's so fast. It's got great views if you can see from the front. It's a lot of fun, but that would be my word of caution there. Directly connected to Germany, you will find Oktoberfest, and this is where you're going to see a lot more rides. First up, there is a massive castle on the right, and this was empty for a really long time, but this year they opened Dark Coaster. This is a completely indoor roller coaster, and it's North America's first all-indoor straddle coaster. So unlike a typical roller coaster where you'll just get in like a car and they'll strap you in, these vehicles look more like a snowmobile. And so you will actually straddle them and then strap you in, and you can either sit back or you can lean forward and hold onto the handles, kind of like, you're steering a snowmobile. So I tried it both ways, and you actually get very different experiences between sitting back and leaning forward, just how you feel the different turns and inversions and stuff. This one is really fun. I am looking forward to riding this again. It is, again, it's brand new for this year. So this has only been out for a few months. It's very fun. It's a little bit scary. I wouldn't say it was super intense. Maybe like a 6 or 7 out of 10. Definitely one you should check out. The next section of Oktoberfest is kind of like a festival. There's a lot of carnival games here, very classic ones. So if you want to try and win some prizes, you can go do that. There is also an arcade. If not, you can just kind of wander through, and at the back, you'll find Das Festhaus. Now, this is a show venue / restaurant. So you can get an a la carte style meal here, or you can just come in and they have shows running throughout the day. As with all the other shows, the one that's currently on shifts with the season. The kind of traditional one is called Oktoberzest, and it's a song and dance show with kind of a German flair. Moving around the loop from there, they have a couple more classic carnival rides like Der Autobahn, which is bumper cars, and Der Wirbelwind, which is their swings, the ones that lift you up and then you swing around really high in the air. That's always fun. And then they have Verbolten. It is such a good one. I love this ride. It is part indoor, part outdoor, and the premise is you're going on a journey into the dark forest, and it's really creepy and scary. And so as you're going around this inner part, there are like eyes that'll flash up, and there's lightning and thunder and scary trees. And the storyline changes every time. So from what I've heard, I believe there's 3 alternate storylines in here. So what you see inside may be different each time you go in. There are some fantastic drops. It shoots you outside, and then you have this awesome plummet. Like, it is great. It is one of my favorite rides in the park. It is very intense, but it is very smooth. Love it. Highly recommend. The only downside is the line can get very, very long, so you may end up waiting for quite some time. Oktoberfest also used to have a drop tower, and that is gone, which I'm actually really sad about. I kind of had a love-hate relationship with it, but I always enjoyed going up the tower during Christmas Town because they would take you up and slowly rotate it, and you could see the whole park lit up, and it was so beautiful. And now it's just like an extra seating area, which is kind of unfortunate, but it is next to my favorite pretzel place in the whole park. Do not get pretzels anywhere else. They're like frozen pretzels everywhere else. Here at the German pretzels and beer shop, they make them fresh. They are soft. They are delicious. They are huge. If you like soft pretzels, be sure to get them here. They are absolutely delicious. From Oktoberfest, you will cross another bridge over the river and find yourself right next to the San Marco Theater. This is another one where they have food and then a venue, but the venue's more outdoors, got like some covered seating, but it is exposed to the elements. They have kind of like a buffet line. This is another one where they will switch up the show from time to time, particularly during the seasons. It's usually something a little more classical though, like a quartet or a piano player, something very smooth and refined usually. And then you'll start to see more of the rides. So there are a few that are just kid rides here, and then there are a couple that are adult friendly as well. There is the flying machine, which is basically just kind of like a spinning ride in a car off of a machine that's got like arms. So you're kind of up in the air spinning around. Then there's the battering ram, which is like the classic ship that goes back and forth. And they have the little balloons and the little gliders, which are basically just 2 very calm spinning kids rides. As I was editing this video, I realized that I forgot to include one very major ride in Italy, and that is the Escape from Pompeii. This is a water ride. You will get in a boat, and it'll take you up into a building that's modeled after like an ancient building from the city of Pompeii. And while you're in that building, the volcanic eruption starts to happen. So the building will start collapsing around you. There's flames, and then you shoot out the other end down a water slide and usually get splashed pretty good. There is also an area here where people can pay to squirt you with squirt guns. So your chances of getting out dry are slim, but not zero. So this is another good one for a hot day, but you might find yourself waiting in line for quite a while. The very last area in Busch Gardens, Williamsburg is Festa Italia, and this is another rather carnival-like area. It lends itself very well to creepy carnivals during Hallowscream, but otherwise it is a lot of fun. Once again, there are a number of carnival games that you can check out. It also has multiple roller coasters. So if you are looking for roller coasters, this is going to be a great place to focus your time. First up is Apollo's Chariot, another one of my absolute favorites in the park. Arguably the best in the park. It is just a fantastic ride. It is so smooth. It's got some great drops, and it's just a very nice amount of intensity. It's also a little bit longer than some of the other ones. It lasts for like 2 minutes and reaches a speed of 73 miles per hour. There's also a high-speed launch coaster here called Tempesto. This is probably one of my least favorite coasters in the park, partially because it just takes so long. The car actually goes forward and backwards at some point, so they can only send one group at a time, and it just ends up taking a while, but it is pretty thrilling. You will do multiple inversions and twists. You'll go like way up backwards and then just get shot forward. Like it does have some really cool elements to it, but this is the one we typically skip if we're short on time. This is also where you'll find Pantheon. This is a record-breaking multi-launch coaster. It's got multiple drops, inversions, loops. Like it has everything. I think this easily could be the most intense coaster in the park, but because it is so smooth, it almost doesn't feel like it. Like I really think this is like a 9 out of 10 intensity, but without the jerkiness I kind of associate with some of those more intense coasters. It's just such a fun ride. So this is definitely one you do not want to miss. That is the last roller coaster in the park, but Festa Italia does have a couple other rides. First is Turkish Delight, which is a classic spinning teacup ride. That's one we like to pile in with a bunch of friends and just spin as fast as we can. They also have the Tradewind, which is just a classic carnival style bobsled ride. It does get very, very fast. Make sure you have the smaller person on the inside of the car, otherwise they will be smooshed. And then they have the Roman Rapids. This is their water raft ride. A lot of it is kind of slow, but like any classic rapids ride, it does have some good drops. You are going to get splashed. They also have a zone where people can pay to squirt you with water guns as you go by. So just keep that in mind. If you do this one, there's a good chance you're just going to be soaked through. So I would recommend bringing a change of clothes and or tucking your tennis shoes away in like a water resistant bag just to make sure you're not miserable for the rest of the day. The final thing I want to point out in the park is some transportation options with the Sky Rides and the train. Now the Sky Ride has 3 stations. It goes counterclockwise around the park. You will find the first station in England, one in France, and then one in Germany. So it makes a nice triangle space throughout the park. And this is like a sky gondola ride. So you'll hop in and then you'll go up. And this is always fun because you get very pretty views of the park. Once again, during Christmas Town, I highly recommend this. You will probably have to wait in line for a while, but seeing the park all lit up is absolutely amazing. It is very magical, but also if you're tired and just want a shortcut across the park any time of year, this is the way to go. The other transportation system is their train, and this is kind of a more scenic option. It's gonna meander around the park, but they do have stations throughout the different areas. But if you're not in like a huge rush, that's a great way just to relax a little bit while getting a free ride around the park. This is also one during Christmas Town. You have to do, that's a highlight of Christmas Town because they surround the track with all sorts of beautiful lights and they play Christmas music. It's a lot of fun. So that is typically when we ride the train, but that is available to you any time of year. And as promised, I want to wrap things up with some tips and tricks to maximize your day at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. First up, I recommend arriving either 30 minutes before the park opens or after 2 p.m. If you arrive right when the park opens, you are going to spend like the first 45 minutes just trying to get into the park. So I recommend being at the gates 30 minutes before they technically open because they do usually start letting people get into park and then scan your tickets. You just can't get past England until it's officially open for the day, and from there you can book it to whatever you want to ride first. If you don't get there right at the beginning, I recommend coming after 2 because that's about the time most families start to leave. It is also kind of the hottest part of the day, so people are dragging. When we've done that in the past, we've been able to go kind of against the flow. So we'll go clockwise around the park, and typically things are a little bit slower at that point. You're also going to want to bring really good breathable shoes. You will be doing a ton of walking here, a lot of standing in lines, unfortunately. Just make sure you have something with really good arch support, nothing that's going to make you blister. If you do have some sort of like breathable sandal, that's a good idea for like the water rides, but make sure you have like strapped on shoes. You can't take your flip-flops on there. So they need to be nice and secure. They need to have like a back strap, but firmly on your foot so it's not going to fall off a coaster and bonk someone on the head. If you plan on bringing a lot of stuff into the park, I recommend getting an all-day locker. These are transferable, so you just pay a flat rate for the whole day. and you use a code to transfer your locker access from one part of the park to the other. So, this is a very convenient and rather cost effective way to keep your stuff secure. However, not all, but a lot of the rides do have boxes right by the cars. So, you can put stuff in there, but if you're worried about like your phone or a camera or things like that, I would recommend the locker, especially since not all rides have the boxes for you to put them in. Another alternative is to bring a small fanny pack that has been very popular the past few years. I will occasionally bring a bag that's just big enough for like 3 or 4 phones. Like if we're coming with friends, we'll all put them in my bag. So that is an option. Just make sure it's not too big of a bag. And they also won't let you get on with like a crossbody. It has to be around your waist. Especially if you're visiting in the summertime, bring lots of water. Bring a reusable water bottle. You are going to need that. It gets so hot here in Virginia. If you have never been to Virginia, you will be sweating. The humidity and the heat get very intense, and if you do not stay hydrated, you can very quickly end up dizzy or with a headache, and that's not what you want while you're trying to do thrill rides. And that is all. Thank you so much for watching this whole video. I'm impressed. This was a very long video. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this. I hope this was genuinely very helpful for you as you plan, so you know what to expect in every single area. If you have any further questions though, please feel free to drop those in the comments and I will be happy to get back to you. I also have a full written blog post on this if you want to check that out. There is a little bit more information on some of the specific rides. I have them rated by intensity in case that's helpful. A little bit more information on some of the shows, things like that. So definitely use that resource if you're interested. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button, save it, and share it with everyone you're going to visit Busch Gardens with. And of course, if you want more helpful videos like this in the future, be sure to subscribe to Carried Away Travels so you never miss a video. Thank you so much for being here and happy travels.